Hey everybody, good, okay? Can you just let me know if you can hear me on Instagram? Because I've got the microphone on. I'm just checking that you can hear. I'm also over on YouTube as well. Yes, thumbs up, you can hear me. Thank you, wonderful. So I'm also live on the Sweaty Betty YouTube channel as well if you want to see it on a bigger screen. Yes, and then also here on Instagram. You can all hear. That's amazing. Yes, we can hear you. Fantastic. So we'll just wait 5 minutes till we get started at 11 o'clock. It's all you need for this workshop is a yoga mat. And if you want to have a little notebook to make any notes, but this video will be saved so you can come back to it at any time. Also, if you want to ask any questions right now while we're waiting for everybody to arrive, are you welcome to. I'm really excited about this workshop. I just get so passionate about talking all things yoga. So I'm so excited to have this opportunity. So we'll wait a few more minutes as well, and I will explain what we're going to be doing once everybody is here. Hello. So what I'll be covering, I will let you know at 11 o'clock. It is for beginners, for all levels. Probably more focus at beginners. So it's a great one to do, but also even if you have been practicing for a while, there is always something that we can learn. Hey! Oh, it's so nice to see so many familiar faces as well. The comments are going to be on, just so it's a little bit more interactive, but what I might do is maybe just turn the comments off on Instagram while I'm kind of doing quite a bit of talking, and then I'll turn the comments back on, and then you can ask me your questions. I think that might work a little bit better so you can actually see me rather than just see all the comments. Does that sound good? Good morning over on YouTube as well. Yeah, so just wait just a few more minutes and then we'll get started. Oh, thank you. Just had a comment from Julie saying you look fabulous in your new outfit. How nice is this new goddess? Woo, I'm losing my balance already. This new goddess collection set from Sweaty Betty. It's so pretty. There's detail on it, and I'm in love with the back as well. So nice. I've also got like the jungle vibe set as well, but yeah, I wore that one yesterday, and then today it's all about the goddess vibes. Good morning, everybody. Now, if I'm right in thinking that in some places in the world, I think in America it's really early for you right now. So if you're from America and you're up at this time, then wow, well done to you. They're on your wish list. It's a good item to have on your wish list. It's not, so it's a workshop. It's going to be me talking quite a little bit, breaking down a sun salutation, but you will be on the mat doing it with me, but really kind of just focusing on your alignment within the postures. So yes, it's not a yoga workshop that's focusing on a flow, if that makes sense. I'm just checking that you can all see okay. You can see my mat while I'm there, and you can see it on Instagram. That's all good. Do you know, I'm missing my studio a lot too. I am, but I'm so grateful that I get to have this opportunity right now to still interact with so many of you, because my studio is only small, so to interact on this big scale is amazing. I love it. Like on the comments on YouTube, there's like some people who know each other and they're all just like, hello, hey, checking in. Right. We'll get ourselves started because it's 11 o'clock. Yeah, okay. Right. I am going to just turn off the comments. How can I do that, Roman? Totally forgot how to do it. Turn off commenting. There we go. And then I will turn them back on. They all will be on YouTube. So a big welcome. My name is Caroline and I am a personal trainer and a yoga teacher, and I will be taking you through this yoga workshop that is all about taking care of our alignment, particularly within a sun salutation. Should also mention that I am a Sweaty Betty ambassador for the Nottingham store. So yes, for Nottingham, for those of you who've tuned in from Nottingham, it's super exciting. So yeah, this is a yoga workshop where I will be, like I say, breaking things down, and then I will come over and then ask any questions that you might have. So I'll cover the postures within a sun salutation. So hopefully that might answer some of the questions that you might have. And then I'll come back, and then if you have any extra ones, then I will do my best to answer them. It's important to know that, I mean, I've been a yoga teacher for 2.5 years, but I am still learning, and there's things that I've learned during lockdown as well that's kind of changed my practice, even within these more basic postures. Although they're more basic postures, I wouldn't say there's anything necessarily easy about them. There are foundations, and if we can work on these foundational postures, we can then apply them to the more challenging postures as well. So yoga asana. Yoga asana is what we do on the mat, the physical practice. And when we think about the why we do that, it's to prepare our bodies for meditation, for a yogic seat. So when you kind of think about that, preparing your body to sit, and we have all these amazing fancy postures, it's about making it more comfortable to sit in that cross-legged position and to sit without discomfort, without tension, without tightness, without pain. So I think that's really important to remember, is that why that we're doing something. Yoga is a journey. There's no such thing as a perfect posture, and we're always learning, we're always growing. And I just think if you take off that pressure of perfectionism that doesn't exist and just enjoy the journey. Like I say, we're always learning. I'm always learning. So many yoga teachers are. Now, I'm really inspired by professionals, by physiotherapists, by yoga teachers who are passionate about the anatomy side of the practice, because it's important for us as yoga teachers to keep you safe, especially right now when, all the classes are being delivered online and we can't adjust and assist within practices like if we were physically in a session. So it's really important that we take that responsibility ourselves to learn that little bit more, have more body awareness, and just to keep the practice super safe. So like I said, breaking down a sun salutation, really working on our correct posture as well. And I don't know about you, I've definitely been feeling it. I've been doing so much more sitting than I normally would do, and have to really consciously think about my posture. I've been spending a lot of time like this, and on phones and everything. And it's not to say to criticize ourselves. That's a part of our culture, our society. It's part of life. But we want to be really mindful about the posture that we're bringing onto the yoga mat. We can practice yoga daily. We can practice it weekly. You might be on your mat an hour a day, an hour a week, but we can't undo hours and hours and hours of a poor posture. And we want to be mindful about what we're bringing onto the mat as well. Okay, the video will be saved for later as well, so you can access this. Like I said, if you want to have a little notebook, make any notes, but you will be able to see it after as well. Okay, so we're going to head over to the yoga mat. So if you're not already on your mat, just bring yourself there now. And so a sun salutation, there's a series of flowing postures that were designed to be done first thing in the morning. Can be done obviously any time, but they're designed to get the heart rate up, to energize, and just to release tension throughout the whole of your body. Now, the first posture within a sun salutation is mountain pose. And there's so much that we can learn from this posture, and it's applied to the more challenging postures throughout the yoga asana practice. So let's start off all the way down with the feet, okay? So our feet want to be hip distance apart. So if you feel into the bony bits within your hips, that's where they want to be lined up, okay? Your feet don't want to be out here. You also want to have the outer part of your feet parallel with the mat. So if you kind of think about the edge of the mat, they want to line up nicely with there. Now, what tends to happen is sometimes we might have like one foot turned out, we might then, move the feet, and if you can see, it really alters the rest of the body when the feet aren't in their correct position. Okay, so feet hip distance apart. I want to make sure that we're active into the feet. What tends to happen is it might look like they're in the correct alignment, but if we don't have that the muscular awareness and just drop in, it pulls everything in. Okay, so if I collapse into the inner arches of my feet, hopefully you can see that my knees have dropped in. So what we want to do is, if you lift all your toes, give them a good stretch, okay, and then just start to lower them all the way back down and try to think about lifting the inner arches of the foot up. And that's just going to really start to switch on all the muscles that should be working to support this. All right, and yeah, I also want to mention, as we go throughout this, try not to get frustrated with yourself if you're thinking, oh no, I don't do that, or I've been doing things wrong. There's no right or wrong. We're just learning and we're growing and we're evolving. And this is kind of my, not my take, this is all my learning that I've done to make the practice more safe for myself and for students, for yourself as well, okay? So just bearing that in mind. So just want to make sure that you're really lifting up and engaged, okay? So just kind of notice how that feels. So you want to think about this posture. So when we're doing any balancing poses, so if we were coming to tree pose, we still want that same alignment within the foot. What we don't want to do is to be collapsing into the inner arch of the ankle, or be setting it up with the foot going out to the side. All right, let's move up to the knees now. Now, some of us might be hypermobile through the back of the knees, so we might do this lockout. Okay, so that's like we're pushing the knees back, and if you can see, it totally changes the posture within the rest of my body. All right, so there's different things that we do through the upper body that will kind of correct that. So just kind of be mindful. How are you standing through the back of the knees? Is it a locked out position? If you're hypermobile, it's quite comfy just to be sitting in that end range, but what you're doing is you're collapsing into the ligaments. So just be really mindful of that. All right, so moving now up to your hips, into your pelvis. Take your hands onto the hips, and we're just going to work on doing this posterior and anterior tilt through the pelvis. Okay, so it looks like you're trying to stick the bum out, so an anterior tilt, and then forward a posterior tilt. So it's like tucking your tailbone, and it's kind of like a cat-cow movement as well through the pelvis. So just kind of explore how that feels. Any stickiness, and can you really just isolate just moving into the pelvis and keep the rest of the body still? Okay, we want to find neutral. So imagine that, so where the hips are, and if it's a bucket of water, if you tip further forward, then the water's going to come out. If you go back in the sway position, the water's going to go behind. So we want to find neutral. So yeah, thinking about that neutral alignment with the pelvis, just being aware of that. Now, that'll also kind of correct this. So if I stick my legs out, I'm then tipping the water out effectively, whereas if I bring my pelvis to neutral, it corrects the legs as well. Then think about the core. So we want to have the belly button pulled in and up. So we're really creating that lengthened position here. When we sit, we spend so much time compressing the lower spine, okay? So we want to try and create this decompression through the spine. We want to create an S shape, a natural, neutral S shape through the spine. And you're going to have a slight lordotic curve through the lower part of your spine. Okay, so it's not about having the tailbone tucked so that the lower back is flat. It's that neutral S shape in the lower part, the curve in the lower part of the spine. From there, let's move up to the rib cage. You want to have the rib cage drawn in, especially the lower ribs. We might then have all this correct here, but as soon as we start to flare the ribs, look what's happened to my pelvis. Okay, so keeping the lower rib cage drawn in. And when we've got this alignment here, your deep core muscles will start to fire. They'll fire automatically when we're in this correct posture. Moving up now, thinking about the shoulders. Now, because we spend so much time on our phones, we're in this flex position. So our shoulders are rounded forward, really heavily flexed through the spine. What we want to do, we do want to have a kyphotic curve in the upper spine, in your thoracic, but not to this extent being super rounded. Okay, so I'll move up to the neck, and then that'll help correct the shoulders. So when we're on our phones such a lot, we are really hanging out in this position here, really deep flexion to the neck. And what tends to happen is our traps in the upper back take over to help us in this position. If we're in this for hours and hours, so what it's going to do is going to try and then we need to try and then pull it back. So imagine you're trying to create a double chin, but not dropping the chin down, if that makes sense. So then that brings the head into neutral, and then we can line up the ears with the shoulders, and then we can line the shoulders up with the hips up with the knees, and the knees with the ankles. And this is our neutral spine. So when you hear yoga teachers talk about neutral, they might say, so neutral or a straight spine. It's not an actual straight spine. We want to have that natural S curve within the spine. Okay? This in mountain pose. And then the hands will be coming out to the side. Okay, and then the thumbs going out slightly as well. We don't want to have the thumbs down to the side of us because we then go into internal rotation of the shoulders. So our mountain pose, this is such an important posture. If we can nail how this feels to be in neutral, we can then apply it to many other postures. So yes, it's not the most fanciest posture, but we can learn so much from it, and it will make a huge difference to your practice and to your everyday life. Everything can function better. Okay, you think you can breathe more effectively. Your digestion will be able to work better as well when we're in this position. Okay, right, from there, so we're in our mountain pose. From there, we're going to start to reach the arms all the way up. So the arms starting up over the head. Now you can take the arms out in front, you can take the arms out to the side. It just depends the intention maybe that the yoga teacher's taking you through. It's always good to have variety. Now watch what happens is when you're up here, check that you're not doing this. So if you can see, look at my pelvis, that change in the pelvis, and then I'm flaring into my ribcage, and my deep core muscles aren't engaged there. So what we need to do, find neutral, so pull it in, really start to lift up, and really reach with the arms. Let the shoulder do its job it's supposed to do as we lift up. We don't want to be drawing the shoulders down here. Natural movement for the body is to reach up, think about the head. If you want to look up, then just gaze up, but make sure you're not cranking the neck back and collapsing into ligaments in the back of the neck as we reach there. Okay, so really making sure that here, even squeezing into the bum. So imagine if you're wanting to work on your handstand, then we really want to be in this strong position here, into the core and reaching in your, if you were doing this upside down, you'd be in handstand. Okay, now we're going to come into a halfway lift. Because for a lot of us, the back of our hamstrings are super tight, halfway lift can be super challenging for us. So again, same alignment with the feet. Feet are hip distance apart. It's a hinge from the hips, okay? And as soon as you take your hands onto your hips now and then tilt the pelvis, but keep the core engaged and just start to lean forward, you will start to feel the stretch into the back of the legs. Now, there might get to a point when you feel that it gets too tight. So what you want to do then is just take a slight bend in the knees. Still have the weight going forward. Let the hands hang and then place them onto the legs. Okay, and then it depends on your flexibility. You might be able to take the hands down onto the mat, but you want to keep a neutral spine and be mindful that you're not rounding through the shoulders just to get the hands on the mat. That's when it's our ego that's taking over. Okay. We want to be doing this practice to take care of our bodies and try to move the ego out to the side and make any adjustments that you need to. Now, I'm just going to show you with the strap. So it just kind of explains this stretch in the halfway lift is a stretch for the back of the legs, particularly into the hamstrings. Now, our hamstrings are attached to your sit bones, so your bony bits of your bum. Moving a little bit closer so you can see this. Now, what tends to happen is if we then are really tight in our hamstrings, what will tend to happen is we start to then posteriorly tilt the pelvis, and then we're not actually stretching into the back of the hamstrings, which was our intention. Okay, so if we're here, and then if I lower down, this becomes loose. I'm not stretching then. I'm not lengthening into my hamstring. So tilt to the pelvis, pull the belly in, the knees bend instead, but you're still maintaining this position if that makes sense. Still think about the core being engaged, no rib flare. So think again about your mountain pose, ribs drawn in. You want to apply the same thing here. Think about where the hands are going, and if you want more activation, reach the arms forward, weight into the toes, and think about finding strength within this posture rather than too much of a stretch. So find strength, and then that bit of a stretch. But it's nice and active here, okay? And then coming into a forward fold. Forward fold just come before halfway lift. I missed that one out. Okay, so forward fold. But again, you kind of want to be thinking we're starting off with that tilt in the pelvis, that hinge from the hips, lengthening through the spine as much as we can, and then start to round through the thoracic spine through your upper spine, and then start to bring the chin in towards the chest. Okay, now this posture can get us really frustrated. We want to have straight legs because our ego takes over, but then what we're actually doing is not doing the intention of the posture, which is to lengthen into the back body. And when you feel nice and calm when we're doing it as well, not stressing the body out. If your hamstrings are tight, the back of your legs are tight, take a slight bend in the knees. That's much better than being in this position and having straight legs. Okay, so that little bend, try and feel the belly on the thighs, lengthening, and then start to draw the chin in. Okay, depending on what time of day it is, depending on if you've been doing a workout, the back of your legs going to feel tight. Okay, and especially if you've been sitting a lot, you've got to think, like I said earlier, about if we come onto the mat for maybe an hour a day, an hour a week, half an hour, but we're trying to undo hours and hours and hours of maybe sitting and of that poor posture. Okay, so just kind of be mindful about what you're bringing with you onto the yoga mat. All right, now from there, okay, so from our salutation, we've gone from mountain pose, over Hastasana with the arms up overhead, nice and engaged as you lift, and then taking it down into your forward fold. Think about hinging from the hips, rounding, halfway lift. It's a neutral spine, but think about that natural S curve. Keep the rib cage drawn in. From there, hands come down onto the mat, spreading into the fingers, little bend the knees, and step back into your high plank. Okay. From there, make sure, if I just drop the knees for a moment, we want to make sure that the hands are shoulder distance apart, spread through the hands, but not really stretching too much. And we want to have the index finger pointing towards the top of the mat. Okay? Now, it might feel better for you even if you just take the hands out a little bit wider. Just see how that feels for you. We don't want them too close together. All right? From there, so you're going to lift up. So we want this alignment of our wrists, our elbows, and our shoulders. Just check that you're not hyperextending into the elbow joint and use your upper arm muscles to lift up. Okay? From there, so really thinking about pushing into the back of the shoulders. Draw the lower ribs in, pull the belly in, and I want to squeeze into the bum and push the heels back. Super active in this plank. Think about your neck as well. So not dropping the neck down, not looking at the toes. Think about your mountain pose posture and trying to create that double chin. Okay, and then just dropping the knees down onto the floor and give your wrists a bit of a shake. So that the plank pose there is, say, more it's like a handstand way to plank, but it's really strong. Okay, it's a really strong way to do it. And you feel the amount of breath when you're doing something properly. It's super active. It kind of helps you to create then that strength, that feel of that hollow body hold for if you wanted to go into handstand. That needs to be super strong. And thinking about pushing from the floor. A lot of yoga is a push exercise. Okay, right. From there, we're going to work on Chaturanga. So Chaturanga is another one sometimes when the ego takes over. We're going to do it on our knees, and then we're going to give you the tips to then progress into full Chaturanga. Yoga is all about developing this body awareness. Let's be open to learning, really thinking about how your Chaturanga feels. If you're not doing it quite right, then just take the variation before. If you do the first variation well, you are working the correct muscles to then progress into your full Chaturanga. Okay? If you're doing your Chaturanga incorrectly, you're not engaging the right muscles. Okay? Right. So, So from your plank position, so remember, nice and strong, we're pushing, we're pulling, we're squeezing, we're going to drop the knees down onto the floor. Okay, we want to think about going forward. Now think about being super strong, just like you were in your plank. So your core is engaged, you're strong into the back of the shoulders, your deep neck flexors are working here. To lower to the floor, it's not a drop of the hips, okay? And it's not, it's a movement from the elbows, okay? The elbows are going to come to the side of the body, to the side of the rib cage. You need to have your hands in the correct place, so your index finger should still be at the top of the mat, and then that's going to create the elbows within the right position, okay, for when you're lowering down. If they're not, and the elbows are going out, then you're only going to be able to go out. You need to have them to the side of you, so we can do this movement here, rather than going out. All right, let's give it a go. So really focus on your alignment, being honest with yourself. Don't let the head lead the movement either. All right, so lean forward, still keep the belly in, elbows bend. So elbows that start the movement, lower, 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 and check everything should come down together in this position. All right, let's go back up again. So check back in with your plank, because that's where you'll be coming from. So in your plank, high plank, squeeze your glutes, pull the belly in, rib cage draws in, deep flexors, neck flexors engaged, knees drop, onto the toes, lean forward, elbows bend, everything comes together, strong in the core, lower, lower, lower. Nice. All right, okay, so in this position, your elbows are still in tight to the side of the body. I'm now going to show you a full Chaturanga. This is, again, this body awareness. Sometimes what happens is ego takes over, but we kind of just collapse into it. It's a hard and challenging posture. Just like the knees down is challenging as well. So you want to maintain that plank position. So still spreading into the fingers, nice and strong. So squeeze the bum, you're going to lean forward, elbows bend, and you start to lower, but everything is coming down together as you make it down onto the floor. What tends to happen is we think we're doing it, okay, and we're lowering, or we're lowering, we're lowering, we're lowering, and then we just collapse, all right? If we're doing it incorrectly, the correct muscles are not firing, they're not working properly. So how can we build strength in something if we don't do it correctly in the first place? Transitions from Chaturanga, if you're working, if you haven't quite got the strength yet to then bring yourself up into the next posture, then just work on the lowering down phase first. We build a lot of strength on that eccentric movement as we come down towards the floor. Okay, so I'm going to show you, we'll go from the knees down first into baby cobra or cobra, and then I'm going to show you up dog from Chaturanga. All right, so let's go into that lowering. So leaning forward, elbows bent as you lower, controlled, controlled as you come down onto the mat. Hands to the side of the rib cage. Think about drawing those elbows in. Now, if you just look at your shoulders and let your elbows drop to the side, notice the change within the shoulders. Okay, keep the elbows in. So just have the forehead on the mat to begin with. Squeeze into the bum, push the hips into the mat, push your fingertips in, really squeeze the shoulder blades together as you lift your forehead up. Imagine making that double chin, squeezing, elbows should be tight to the side of the body. You can come into Cobra, the elbows need to be bent, okay? Or an option, if that's too much, stay in baby Cobra. The intention of this is to create extension into the spine, open into the chest. We're still getting the same benefits even when we're here. Just check whether when you're in Cobra or baby Cobra, we're not collapsing into the neck, okay? We're not extending into the arms. We've got a slight bend in the elbows here. If you're feeling compression in your lower back, that crunching feeling, just lower back down. Yoga is not about pushing through any pain. All right, so thinking about opening into the chest, and I mean, some teachers might cue for you to be looking up. For me, I don't always feel that comfortable because I feel like it's too much strain through my throat. I just can't breathe. And some salutation and yoga is about connecting with that breath. There's a restriction to me, whereas here I'm more engaged into the neck. Right, okay, so now I'm going to show you into upward facing dog. So upward facing dog, you're going to push the hips into the mat. Really important, you've got this push, this squeeze, hands to the side of the ribs, start to then open through the chest, push the tops of the feet into the mat, and then lifting up. So with the thighs are off the floor here, your knees are off the floor, your arms are straight. Just check if you have mobile in the elbows, that you're not locking out, using your upper arm muscles. Engage the deep neck flexors, open into the chest, squeeze the glutes, pull the rib cage in, and then lower all the way down. Okay, all right. I'm going to show you from Chaturanga into upward facing dog. You're going to start and hover off the floor, and that's where we then push up into upward facing dog. So, nice and strong, pushing away, squeeze, deep neck flexor engage, lean forward, elbows bend, they should be to the side of the body. I'm going to stop when my shoulders get in line with my elbows, untuck the toes, and then push up into upward facing dog from there. Okay, you need to be super strong in your Chaturanga to hold it here, and then be able to turn over the toes and push up into your upward dog. Whew. So if you can see it here, if it's done properly and done well, it should be challenging. We shouldn't be able to bust out loads and loads and loads of Chaturangas. If they're done well, you should struggle to do loads of them. Okay, moving on now into your downward facing dog. All right, so downward facing dog, it will be innocent salutation. So we're going to be coming from baby cobra, cobra, or upward facing dog. If you're from upward facing dog, you're going to turn over the toes from here and then go back into downward dog, or an option, you can then go over the toes as you're moving. If you're in a baby cobra or child or cobra, keep the elbows in. It's really good to work on that upper arm strength. Push, take it back. You can take a child's pose, or we're then going to take it up into your downward facing dog. Now in our downward dog, think about those cues that we did in our mountain pose. I'm going to apply some of them here. Right, so hands are going to be shoulder distance apart, middle index finger towards the top of the mat. From there, so the hips are going up. All right, so kind of think that when the arms are up over the head in our Urdhva Hastasana, we want to have the ears next to the shoulders. Now, downward dog is a push posture, so make sure you're pushing. We're going to activate those muscles to help us push away from the floor. The weight's going towards the back of the mat. All right, from there, let's start to, we'll work from the feet. So the feet, once we hip distance apart. Now, just lift up onto the toes and then lower back down. Try to make sure that the heels might not make it down, but make sure the outer part of the feet are parallel with the mat and they're active still, just like in your mountain pose. You might need to bend the knees slightly, and that's okay, but don't let that tilt happen through the pelvis. A slight anterior tilt here. Draw the rib cage in there, so no flaring into the ribs here. And then try to think about creating that kyphotic shape through the thoracic spine, okay? But we're not super rounded, so we're not here. So just pushing it back. And here is your downward facing dog. Okay, just drop to the knees for a moment and just give the wrist a bit of a shake. Now, if you're struggling to create that almost that upside down V shape and that neutral spine, might be tightness in the back of the legs. Okay, might be tightness within the hamstrings, the calves. It could be mobility within the ankles. And if you feel tight within muscle, remember it's not just about stretching, it's also about strengthening it as well. What you can do though is help by bending in the knees slightly, so you can make sure you've still got that tilt. So think about when I used the strap earlier, to still lengthen the hamstring. We don't want to go into that posterior tilt and then make the hamstring not in a lengthened position. We're going to keep that length so we are stretching it as well. So that will look a little bit different like this. If we get, again, obsessed with getting the feet on the floor, look how it changes the rest of the shape. Okay, so engage everything else. Slight anterior tilt of the pelvis, lifting up, nice and strong, and then bending the knees. See how that feels. Maybe you might want to come up onto the toes instead. Okay, so even if you've been practicing yoga for a long while, just check that you're not flaring into the ribs. Think about drawing in. It's really hard to kind of still create that neutral shape in the spine. Okay, from there, we're going to make it all the way back up again. So from your downward facing dog. So there's a few options. You can come onto the toes and walk the feet in. It's a great way to work on building strength for handstand by walking the feet in, keeping the hips super high. Or a nice way is to either lift the leg up, okay, still create that neutral S shape, look forward and then lean and step through. The more times you do this, the easier it will become. But like anything, we're building new neural pathways, it takes time. Okay, you wouldn't just lift a dumbbell once and expect to have strong bulging biceps. The same for the rest of the body. Right, so you lift up, lean forward, even if you make it to here or here, give it a helping hand, move it forward. Push up, and then coming into your halfway lift again. So thinking about that alignment, pull the belly in, weights forward, and then we take the forward fold. So still take your time. Remember there's alignment cues. And then bringing yourself all the way up. You can either round up through the spine, all the way up, reach the arms up, inhale. Exhale. Hands come to heart center. And then we've made a full round of a sun salutation. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to come over and turn the comments back on and just to see if any of you have any questions. Turn on commenting. Oh, let's have a little bit of water. Okay, does anybody have any questions about what we've just done then? Are we all okay? That feel all right for everybody? I hope you were still there because I can't. Oh yes, we're here. Looks like your leggings fall down. I don't feel like they fell down. Super supportive. Thank you, really helpful, amazing, life-changing, yay! Halfway between knees down and full chaturanga, any tips on getting stronger? Keep doing what I said with that lower and down phase. You're going to build such a lot of strength. Lower down slower as well. Okay, so challenging the body in different ways. So lowering down slower. That seems like quite a workout. Would this be good for a warm-up? It is good for a warm-up because it works your whole body. A bit more talk about a chaturanga. Yeah, absolutely. I can do a little bit more talk about that. But yeah, sun salutation is amazing because it warms up and works the whole body. Definitely haven't been doing it properly. Again, don't feel frustrated with yourself. You know, it's amazing that you show up on the mat to try, that, you know, we're always learning and always growing. And like I said, you know, I'm constantly learning as well, particularly in this lockdown period. I've learned loads more about posture and alignment. It's about knowing and then applying it, what we've learned as well. Is it normal for my quads to feel on fire during forward folds? Yes, because what's happening is your hamstrings are in a lengthened position, and when one muscle is lengthened, the other one's contracting. They work in pairs, so which means your quads firing and working and contracting, and your hamstrings lengthening, so that's good. I feel like my back is rounded in downward facing dog. So you want that slight round of the upper back because we've got a natural kyphotic shape, but try playing about with that position, that change within the legs. So you might want to have the knees bent, try see if that makes a difference, or lifting the heels up off the floor and just really work on that spinal neutral alignment. Like I said, even kind of working on neutral in your mountain pose and really getting used to that feeling and then applying it in your downward dog. Because downward dog wants to have a neutral spine. Because it warms you up and gets you going, is it better to do it in the morning as opposed to nighttime? Absolutely, because if you think in the morning, you've got to think your why and your intention. You want to feel energized for your day. You want it to set you up well, and it gets the heart rate up. Like somebody said, like feeling a bit like a workout. It energizes your body, gets the heart rate up. So kind of think about when it's the evening time, you want to unwind and start to relax. So we want to kind of do more of a practice, I'd say, that works more into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is in charge of your rest and digest and your recovery. You want to bring the heart rate down for that rather than taking it up. A few of you have commented about wrists. You've got to think, like, our wrists, we don't spend any time on our hands throughout the day, okay? Very few of us will, but we're always on our feet, really. You are putting a lot of load into your wrist, and you're actually going into a lot of extension into the wrist in this position. You're bearing your whole weight on these teeny tiny parts of your body, so they need to have strength, they need to have mobility. So there are a few wrist exercises that you can do. So to warm up into the wrists, you can see again, is just moving the wrists around in different directions. You can do some padding. You can then take them out to the side, sway left to right, bringing them in. Okay, just moving them in different positions. This is a really good one to do, is if you have your hands onto the mat, knees further forward makes it less intense, knees back makes it more intense. And just see if you can lift the fingers up off the mat without moving the arms. It's really hard. That's a really good way to strengthen. Taking the fingers back, and then work on trying to lift the fingers up. If they do, it'll only be a small movement, just it's that focus of what's happening and trying to lift the fingers up. Another great one that physio shared with me yesterday is to get either a kind of beans or a lightweight resting onto a table and work on lowering and lifting. So work on strengthening into wrist extension and flexion. And again, it's strength within a wrist. So I hope that helps. Can you go through the difference between Sphinx, Cobra, and Baby Cobra? They all look the same. Yes, of course I can. So let me show you. So coming down. So first of all, Sphinx, elbows are underneath the shoulders, forearms are on the mat, and you're lifting here. So kind of same intention, because it's a heart opening posture here. But if we come into Baby Cobra, the hands are more underneath, by the side of the ribcage, and more underneath the shoulders. The elbows come in. So Baby Cobra, as you push the hips into the mat, is a less intense variation compared to Cobra. But if you take the hands up, it's a great way to see how much strength you have, not just passive flexibility. If I let go here, I would definitely face plant. Whereas here, it's having that strength to keep lifted. So from Baby Cobra to Cobra, you always want to keep the elbows still drawn in. This is Cobra. There needs to be a soft bend in the elbows. Okay, so no locking out here. The straight arms are for upward facing dog as you lift up. So Sphinx, forearms, elbows and shoulders. Cobra, shoulders back, lifting. Baby Cobra, Cobra, lifting up. Cobra, Baby Cobra, Sphinx. Hope that helps. Any tips on improving hamstring flexibility? So sometimes we think if something's feels like it needs stretching, you probably need strengthening as well. Now, like I mentioned, we do a lot of sitting, so our hamstrings, our back body just becomes super weak, and into our glutes. So I definitely say work on doing more strengthening exercises, things like deadlifts, and the strengthening of the muscle will definitely improve your flexibility, because the body being like saying, I feel a little bit more safe here, so I'm going to give you some more flexibility. So try not to just stretch type parts of your body, but also strengthen them too. Like I said, when you're in your halfway lift, Think about your sit bones, so the attachment point of the hamstrings. It's not them, because you're not really stretching, lengthening the hamstring here. You need to be here. If that's too tight, knees bend, but we're still in the same position. So we're not here, okay? It's here, either here or here, okay? And then if you halfway lift's a great way to know if it's actually your hamstrings stretching, because you feel that in the hamstrings. If you take a forward fold, we're then stretching into the posterior chain of the body. You're stretching your calves, you're stretching into the back of the ankles. So if you can feel it more in those, in a forward fold, it could be tightness, weakness as well within your calves and your heels. I'm just going to go over to YouTube and then I'll come back to Instagram. Just a general question really for teaching yoga online. Sequencing poses when remembering where the camera is. So different when it's in a 3D space. I kind of like always move around really. When you think, I did the sun salutation, started that side and went that side. You can just kind of remember where it is, and imagine your students are all there as well if you're in a class, and it's just kind of keep on moving so that they can constantly see. We don't really ever want to be teaching, be facing this way, okay? You want to be making sure that that's forward, if that makes sense. And just make sure your verbal cues are really clear as well. Tips for hypermobile elbows, yes. Now, if everything else is engaged, it should pull out that hypermobility within your elbows. What happens is hypermobility, you're just collapsing into joints and ligaments. They don't recoil the same as our muscles do. So if we just hang out passively in our joints, the muscles aren't engaged and it's going to cause us problems. So if you look in upward facing dog, if I'm in upward dog and then hyperextending into my elbows, that's because other parts of my body aren't active. Now if I then squeeze into my bum, lift the thighs, really squeeze and lift and open the chest, engage your deep neck flexors, it then starts to correct it. So even if you have got a slight extension, hypermobility in the elbow, everything's firing, so it's much more supported. As for Chaturanga, you're going to be in this position anyway, so the elbows aren't going to be in a hypermobile position. And then when you push up, that's when you need to be mindful that you're not looking out. Right. Let me see if there's any other questions. Forward fold and bringing forward from three-legged dogs are very hard if you don't have a flat stomach. So you've got to try and think about, with your core, it's the belly button pulling in and up. It's not a breathing in, it's the belly pulling in and up. As for bringing the leg through in a three-legged dog, we want to keep the hips high as you swing that leg through to give you space. Because if you're going, I'm going to try and do it slowly, and you're low to the floor, it's hard to get the leg through, okay? So what you want to do is then, as you take the leg up, keep it high, lean forward. So if you can see, there's lots of space to then bring the leg through and then take it through. And if I can just take it out slightly to the side, okay? I hope that one helps. Amazing class. Oh, yeah, I'm so pleased that you're enjoying it. Right, I'm just going to come, I think that's it. Any other questions? Any other questions? And thank you for the comments on the set. It is amazing, isn't it? I love it, really like it. And the 7/8s are great because I'm not very tall, so it's a perfect length. My little legs. You said that makes sense. Amazing. Only just started yoga in lockdown, so super helpful. So pleased, because like I said, all the stuff that's online right now is amazing. And if you've not actually been with a yoga teacher, it's hard to, there's so much to learn, isn't there? It's like someone's telling you to cue the breath, limbs going everywhere. There's always such a lot to learn, but just keep on trying and keep on learning and growing. If your hips are hurting, The hips might work if you've been doing a lot of passive stretching into your hips, like a lot of hip openers with not much strength. It's just going to really cause tightness within the hips. Again, think about strengthening into your hips and also working on mobility as well. Now, when you lift the leg up, to show you the difference, so if I lift my leg up here, okay, so I'm starting to engage into my hip flexors. If I have my knee here, I'm just passively stretching. Okay, you want to have that active stretch. Now, then when it comes to then taking the leg out, you want to be working more into your quads rather than your hip flexors. Again, you want to strengthen your quads, you want to strengthen your hamstrings, your glutes. They're all going to really support the hips. Make sure as well, in any hip postures, you're engaging into your glutes. Muscle, they work in pairs, so when one's contracting, the other one's releasing and feel super safe and supported. That does help. Lovely explanation. I've been teaching for 30 years, so much to discover. Absolutely. It's such a journey for yoga teachers as well, and it's about the things that we learn and sharing it with people. It's not about just like qualifying in something and thinking that we have to know everything. Okay, constantly evolving and learning and growing, and just take what you need from this practice and what I'm sharing with you. So just the last few moments, if you want to ask any questions, and then I shall be signing out. Amazing. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. I really appreciate you taking this time with me on your Saturday morning, and I hope it makes a difference to your yoga practice, but also remember, taking it off the mat, what you've learned as well. So as you're walking around, try to make sure you're not in this position, even when you're sitting. Find that neutral S shape when you're sitting, and think about that correct posture as you're moving around, as you're doing, if you're going running, we don't want to run like this. Think about everything that you've learned and apply it into all the things that you love every day. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your weekend and the bank holiday too, and keep yourself safe and well. And I shall see you all soon. Thank you so much. Bye.